I saw this image. Aerial footage shows rows of graves being prepared for the victims of the Manab primary school massacre, where 165 students were killed and dozens wounded after an Israeli-American strike targeted the school on the first day of the aggression. An image tells 1,000 words. You know, this is one of those images that is defining. You know, when you look back on the Iraq War, when you look back, although it is still ongoing, at everything that has happened to Palestine, there are always images that come to mind. And I think this one with all the graves lined up like this that are small because these were little girls who were killed. And I just keep thinking about the fact that it is always children who pay the price and who pay the highest price. Wait, this is not from Iran? What is this from? Oh, Minaj. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. I was like, why is Nicki Minaj popping up? Minaj primary massacre. Nicki Minaj addresses Christian persecution in. Oh, Jesus Christ. I was like, what the hell? I saw the video of the father going through his daughter's bloody backpack and crying. Truly horrible and devastating. Yeah. Well, I don't know exactly then what that is from, but there are other images. There's one that is a pink backpack of one of the little girls, and it's covered in blood. New image shows off freshly dug graves after U.S.-Israeli schools strike on girls' school in Iran. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi shared an aerial photo showing long rows of freshly dug graves, saying there for more than 160 girls killed in the U.S.-Israeli strike at a primary school in Manab. Okay, well, Drop Site is saying that this is a photo from the recent strikes on the elementary school. I believe this is the case, but also like that it is the reality that almost 200 little girls were killed because Israel struck this elementary school. And anyway, back to what I was saying about children always paying the price here. That is the case. That is the truth. Small children who knew nothing of politics and nothing of wars, and yet are paying the highest price, as they always do. I think the statistic is now that 1 out of 6 children live in a conflict zone globally, that children all around the world who are victims of colonialist, imperialist regimes, of civil war that breaks out, say, in the midst of a power vacuum, just how often it is the children who are paying the highest price here. And these are little kids who, you know, these are the ones that should be most protected. And they are being born, so many of them, straight into violence, that they are growing up with only the understanding of death and destruction, that their status as a child does not provide them any protection. And you have grown-ass adults justifying elementary schools being blown apart. justifying refugee camps filled with kids being blown apart. And there is this one particular military strategy. It's a double tap. And if it makes you think of Hunger Games, well, that's because in the Hunger Games, what they do is they send in bombs, they explode, and then when the medical team rushes in, that's when they send in the second round and it kills even more. Well, unfortunately, this is not fiction. This is reality. This is a strategy that Israel and the United States love to employ. It is a double tap where they send in the first round of bombs, and then they send in the second, which is a much greater vicinity and much more total destruction. It is so evil. I was in Iran when they were in war with Iraq. And I will tell you this, many years later, I still remember being in the basement of buildings that bombs dropped in the world around us. Yeah. And kids are not just at risk when they are living in a region that is experiencing a bombing campaign. They are also at risk. Their lives are upended because of the chaos, just the total chaos that it causes, the psychological trauma that is thrust upon them. The fact that they are, as I said, growing up with the understanding of how violent the world is, that the United States, the most powerful country in the world, is one that sees them as collateral. And people always like to point to a place like Iran and, oh my God, well, how about the fact that they've been chanting death to America for years? It's like, yeah, but do you understand that death to Iran is the actual action that the United States takes that elicits then the death to America response when they blow up their kids, when they empty out bloodlines, when they destroy schools and cultural institutions. They also chant death to traffic. It's a common phrase there. Yeah, but the point being that you have death to America as a chant, but then you have the actual hundreds of thousands to millions of civilian deaths that is the action caused by the United States of America. Like, that's the policy. Death to Iran, death to Palestine. Those are policies. Those are actions. We had a chant 20 years ago, bomb, 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 bomb Iran. Wow, bomb in Iran, because it kind of rhymes. God, this piece was just really, really devastating, and I super appreciate Drop Site News for reporting on it. This is... They went and talked to a couple of the families whose daughters were killed in the elementary school. And here's the thing. Of course, the mainstream media right now is highlighting Iranians, especially those in the diaspora, who are celebrating right now. For instance, I'll show you. Like this.
The world is going to be a better place.
Tonight, from coast to coast, a flood of emotions for the more than 500,000 Iranians who now call the United States home.
All the diaspora of Iranians are chanting and excited because we see freedom at hand.
And the thing is that a lot of Iranians I know or I follow online who obviously have very critical uh, uh, angry feelings towards the IRGC, towards the Ayatollah, for rightful reasons, are not celebrating, because no one should ever celebrate, one, when another country is coming into theirs and forcing a regime change rather than it being left in the hands of the people who actually call that country home. And two, that right now there are so many families in Iran who are dealing with the realization that they have lost a loved one because they were bombed, who are facing the potential of more death and destruction as the bombing campaign continues. So there is something that is so wicked about full-on celebration. And again, that does not mean praise for the IRGC and for Khamenei. What that means is that people are dead, and the United States and Israel's reasons for starting war yet again on Iran has nothing to do with freeing the people. And this is just yet another instance where liberation is the name and bombing people to death is the game. I just don't know how you cannot take into account the devastation of an elementary school being blown to bits with over 160 plus little girls being the victims here. That as much as you hate the regime, as much as you want a change in power, as much as you want more liberties for the people of Iran, that never comes in the form of killing civilians, of forcing violent regime change. It is coming from an outside force that has its own purposes in doing so. And of course, mainstream media will only play footage and only interview Iranians that are full on celebrating what is
A
happening
glimpse
here.
of freedom many thought would never come after a regime that's lasted nearly 50 years. Now as Iran
Also, I've been working on trying to schedule having some Iranian journalists come onto my stream to talk more about this, because this is definitely a topic that I think we would all benefit from hearing people who have expertise in the region, but also personal experience. And the position here being that Iranians should not be subjected to another colonial war. They should not have to be bombed by the United States and Israel in order to be free. That never works. That's also, of course, highlighting the purposes of a war like this not being for the people's liberation, but being for further power and dominance in the region by two countries that have been attempting to do this for decades. Like, this is years and years now that specifically Benjamin Netanyahu has had his goal to topple Iran's power. And he has tried to get every administration for the last 20 plus years to get on board to eat out of his fucking hand. And it wasn't until Donald Trump came along that he got exactly what he wanted. I know very little about Iran, so I would love that. Yeah, I just think it would be I just think it'd be super productive to have on somebody who has experience in the political and the personal here. And as far as kind of the belief that you should only listen to Iranians when it is an issue that is affecting Iran. That certainly should not apply when it's listening to Iranians like these people who love Donald Trump, who are celebrating this forced regime change, who are celebrating the fact that Iran is being bombed, like literally being bombed right now as we speak. Why do Iranians get to decide when and then it's like, if you live in the United States of America, just think for one fucking second. Think for one fucking second if the roles were reversed. Not that that is a hypothetical that exists in reality, because obviously the United States is positioned both geographically and also, militarily and politically, so that isn't the case, that it is always the US going and doing this in other countries rather than the other way around. But imagine that this happens to the US, where our elementary schools are being blown up, our people are being bombed because of quote unquote forcing governmental regime change. Do you know how many Americans would obviously be against that, including ones who hate Donald Trump? Because it is not and never has been. We'd be fucking pissed. Yes, it is not and never has been a moral or just thing to do that anywhere. It is up to those of us who live here to have our progressive, have our progressive movements, to change out the power. And there are things that other countries can do to put pressure on the United States. One example being people calling on a boycott of the Olympics that are to take place in Los Angeles in 2028. It's not even that we don't want it, but it wouldn't work. Right. This never works. It never works. It's immoral. It's illegal. It is a total violation of law and order, international law and order. But it also just does not work because it's not meant to. It's not designed for that. And what Iran has done is, ahead of time, they set up a horizontal line of leadership in anticipation of Khamenei being killed, so that they already have somebody to come in and take his place because of how they have designed their system of leadership. So it doesn't work because it's not actually meant to work in the way that they pretend and purport the reasons for doing this kind of shit.
Iranians look to the country's future, some reaching for its past.
Get back to how Iran was in the 60s and the 70s, and a democracy where there's freedom and people have right of speech and right of religion.
Yeah, and do you know what happened? Do you know what happened when there was a democratically elected leader? Do you know what happens when countries actually obtain democracy and democratic processes through their own civilians' will and power? Do you know? Also, in the 60s and 70s, it was a fucking monarchy. And it was a monarchy that was very, 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 very friendly to the United States and let them do whatever the fuck they wanted to do. And then you know what happened? The Iranian people rose up. the Iranian people protested the monarchy's power and rule.
Times Square, one rally's message, "Free Iran," heard loud and clear. While in L.A., in the neighborhood known as Tehrangeles, Iranian flags covering every corner, with locals brimming with hope.
Everyone's dancing in Iran.
The last time
No, they're
Shailene
not.
Farabi visited her cousins in Iran, she was a young
You
girl.
want to know why everyone's not dancing in Iran? Because right now people are dead and dying because they are shoveling through rubble with their hands to try and pull out the bodies of their children. And I know this is a little kid. I understand. This is a little girl who lives in Los Angeles, and she is just repeating whatever she hears from her family. And they probably have pictures of the monarchists up on their walls. They probably have like a picture of Pahlavi in the kitchen. Like, I know she doesn't know, but the point still stands. She is a child who lives in the safety of Los Angeles. And there are little girls her age who are no longer alive because they went to school, because they went to a place where you would think should be a hands-off when it comes to military action, and yet it was blown up. There are a lot of little girls, just like this little girl, who were killed. My entire TikTok For You page got tweaked to pro-bombing diaspora Iranians at like 4 p.m. Sunday. I couldn't even block. Sounds most important, but I know media is pushing it. Yes, this is what the media always does. This is what they did last time. This is what they did last time that the U.S. and Israel started bombing Iran. This is what they did in Venezuela, where they interviewed and ran segments on Venezuelans in fucking Miami who were celebrating that now Venezuela is free.
Now, for the first time in her life, she believes better days are ahead.
Do you believe real change can happen now, and how?
I think it will change. Life will be better over there.
And for mother Seppi Maccabee, prayers that this moment marks a turning point.
We were oppressed, and my parents left the country so that my sister and I could have a free life. My kids get to see.
And like, I obviously recognize that there are Iranians in the United States whose friends and family were targeted by the government. I have read personal stories and I understand the history here, but at the same time, obviously, the focus from the US media is on people like this because they use them as a shield. They use them to manufacture consent for yet another illegal war that results only in death and destruction for the people of the country that is being liberated. It requires nuance. Yes, it absolutely requires nuance. And Iran is not interchangeable with other countries. I understand that it is its own unique situation. It has its own unique history. There are things to understand about, obviously, the just Iran as a whole. And I've talked about filmmakers like Jafar Panahi, who is literally going back to prison because of his films that have marked him as a target by the Iranian government. He is somebody who, in calling out oppression in his country, has been has become a target, has been jailed many times, has had his films outlawed, has had to when he does make a movie, do so very guerrilla style because he is not allowed to make movies because of what his movies touch on. But this is not This is just not the way. It's not the way. It's never been the way. And they focused on Iraqis. Excuse me. They focused on Iraqis celebrating their American liberators, and then we all know what happened there, and how now Iraq is such a fucking mess. So many people who were killed, who continue to suffer because of environmental poisons, because of the political instability, because of terrorist organizations like ISIS. And every time it's the same story. These people are greeting us. They are greeting America as their liberators. Look at them celebrating. Look at them dancing. And it's the sad reality. The sad reality that no, they are not in a better position, and it will only lead to more instability, more death, more civilian death. That for those in a country like Iran who are progressive, who have been working as activists, as organizers, who have, pushed back against the regime, who have pushed back against oppressive policies, that this makes it harder for them to do that.
A free Iran.
Freedom that tonight feels closer, yet far from guaranteed. Morgan Chesky, NBC News, Los Angeles.
We thank you for watching.
I love how people act so normal when the USA decides to bomb a country to kill their government. It's like, meanwhile, in Iran, it's a different story. The pictures that you see, the people that you hear from, I cannot understand how a place where innocent children learn can be bombed like this. This was a father whose daughter was one of those killed at school. We were talking about small children who knew nothing of politics or wars, and yet they are the ones paying the highest price. In the immediate aftermath of the strike, he remained standing in the shade of a cracked wall, staring at the ground and ignoring the commotion around him. He didn't approach the building, which had been sealed off, but he didn't move away either. His hands knotted together, then separated, then knotted again. Every time a paramedic emerged or an ambulance moved, he quickly raised his head, then returned to staring at the ground. He asked no one a direct question. He was only waiting for his daughter's name to be called. Some 170 students were inside the building, attending morning classes when the missiles struck. At least 108 people were killed, according to the public prosecutor's office in Manab, and many of them between the ages of 7 and 12 years old. It was unclear if it was a U.S. or Israeli strike. I mean, one is the same. One is the other. My heart is broken for Sarah and for all the children we lost today. I want the world to know that the children are the real victims. Every day that passes without a solution increases the pain and the suffering for the families and for the children alike. The children are always the victims here. Manab sits far from Tehran, but the school was adjacent to a naval base belonging to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. A resident of Manab who spoke to Dropsite on the condition of anonymity said explosions shook the city Saturday morning, sending residents into an immediate panic. Then reports started emerging that the school had been hit. One of the most disgusting things I've seen is people running around saying it was Iran's own missile that hit the schools. Yes, which they said said the same fucking shit in Palestine. They said the same shit in Iraq. Every time a hospital, a school, a place where not just civilians are harbored, but children, kids. They got one speed. They'll say, oh, no. Israel would never bomb a hospital. The United States would never bomb a hospital. And then when it is very clear that, that's actually what it was, then eventually they'll say, oh, it's because there was Hamas headquarters under there. It's because it was on the site of a valid military target. And I don't know if y'all remember, but my dear old cousin who writes for The Atlantic, wrote a piece about how you can legally kill children. And of course, he was referring to brown children. He was referring to children in Palestine. And because there is the get around of when something is when there's a valid military target nearby, or intel that has the enemy's headquarters underneath this hospital or underneath this school, then they will proclaim that it's sad, but that's collateral damage. That's how war is hell, Maybe if these bad guys didn't have their headquarters in the hospital, then we wouldn't have to bomb the hospital. That was your cousin? Yes, that is not a first cousin of mine. A cousin nonetheless, Graham Wood, who writes for The Atlantic, and it pissed me off so badly. I was so furious that I tweeted at him, and then it became a whole thing in my family. I'm trying to find why children always pay the price in war. Trying to find a piece that I want to read. Okay, I can't find it. But also fuck that guy for saying it's okay to bomb children. It's sad. It's sad. Nobody wants to see a dead child, but there are some children that you can legally murder. It's like Vietnam happened, thought Americans would learn, war and terror happened, still nothing. What else? I know. You know what's so funny is that we had talked about Nita Alam yesterday when I said, where are they now? American Idol contestants. And we talked about Clay Aiken, and then we found out that Clay Aiken had run for office twice. And one of the times he lost in the primary. He lost to Nita Alam, who is currently running again to unseat the incumbent. And she just released an ad, which is perhaps the first ad on Iran in a prominent race. So just funny to see this pop up and go, oh my God, we just talked about her.
Candidate for Congress. I'm addressing you directly because President Trump just used our taxpayer dollars to bomb a school in Iran, killing over 100 elementary school children and starting another endless war abroad. This is reprehensible and I strongly condemn it, as should every elected official. As Election Day approaches, you will see nearly $2 million of ads for my opponent, funded by AI-backed super PACs, the same AI corporation who powered Trump's attacks on Iran, while my opponent takes donations from Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and General Dynamics. So I wanted you to hear it from me personally. I will never take a dime from defense contractors or the pro-Israel lobby. I have opposed these forever wars my entire career, and I hope to earn your vote to be your proudly uncompromised pro-peace leader in Washington. If you believe we need to do things differently, and you, like me, are praying for peace and demanding accountability, please consider voting for me, Nida Alam, tomorrow.
Also, I just saw that 3 more of you gave bits, so there's some more lint I will remove. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I hope she wins. And also, More candidates should be speaking like this. She's from North Carolina District 4. Yes, and we just talked about her yesterday. Kesha denounces the White House's usage of her song Blow for a TikTok video of bombings. Trying to make light of war is disgusting and inhumane. It has come to my attention that the White House has used one of my songs on TikTok to incite violence and threaten war. Oh my God, Hogan, thank you for the 1,500 bits. As I am covering Kesha, I will remove lint. There you go. Trying to make light of war is disgusting and inhumane. I absolutely do not approve of my music being used to promote violence of any kind. Love always trumps hate. I hate that this word Trump exists because obviously of Donald Trump. I'm like, we need another word. Love upstages hate. Love surpasses. Love eclipses. Love beats hate. Yes. Unfortunately, Trump is a verb and it means to outperform. It means to outweigh. So when you say love trumps hate, love outweighs hate. But unfortunately, because of Donald Trump, any other usage, like any other iteration of Trump, you're like, oh God, love overcomes hate. That's why Benito said love is stronger than hate. Please love yourself and each other in times like this show of blatant disregard for human life, and quite frankly, this attack on all of our nervous systems is the opposite of what I stand for. Also, don't let this distract us from the fact that criminal predator Donald Trump appears in the files over 1 million times. Man, it is just so nasty. It is so nasty that they keep doing this, and I've explained 1 million times why they do. But goddamn, it's like on top of dealing with fascism and the most evil people ever, how trashy and stupid everything is as well. All of their AI slop, their ICE fan cams, their Donald Trump blown up Iran fan cams set to pop songs. I love being ESL because I will learn a new word every day. Ah, God, I cannot believe that they used the song Blow for a TikTok video of bombing people in Iran. The trashiest degenerates of our society who are so gleeful in their trash evil. We moved past the Obamas as apes things pretty quickly. Yeah, the Obamas apes thing in another time, in another era, would have been huge news. It would have been so shocking to see a president engage in such brazen racism like that. There are so many things that unfortunately we just move on too quickly. It's just not even a blip. Not even a blip because of how flooded the zone is. I thought you said Obama has AIDS. No. When Donald Trump posted the AI video depicting the Obamas as apes, posted that shit on Truth Social, got a kick out of it. That would have removed him from office. Events happen basically weekly now. Oh, daily.